Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are well. See if I can pin this. Okay. There it is. Okay. Oh, now everybody's coming. Good morning. Hard to remember, but today is Wednesday, in case you don't know what day it is. Not unlike myself. This is about the only day of the week I remember. So, good morning. Hope you are well. See some names on there. Who's here with me? Today we're going to work on some partial die cutting. Hi Terry, good morning from Connecticut, and do some like scene stamping. So hopefully it's going to work out. I did do one test thing, and I'll show you the thing in a minute, only because I wanted to make sure it would work. But hi Donna, hi Patricia. We had a fabulously amazing thunderstorm in the middle of the night last night. It was so nice. No damage, thankfully. Everything's okay. Hi, Tammy. Tammy is watching from Walhalla, South Carolina. I bet it's beautiful there. Hi, Donna. Hope you guys are doing well today. Hi, Karen. I still have the Ladybug. I didn't announce the Ladybug winner yet, so just in case anyone's wondering. Hi, Pam. Hi, Debbie. Good morning, Susan. Thank you guys all for joining me today. Hi, Julie. So I'm going to show you what I started with, and then we will see. So this is what I was fooling with this morning. I just did this one just to test it. This is actually in soft sea foam, and then this is in shaded spruce. Hi Julie, watching from Ohio. Thank you guys for sharing, Pam and Julie and everyone else. I appreciate that. But this, if you can see, so it's not stamped flat. This is actually the flap. So I thought we could make a scene. We're going to make a scene for a card. Beautiful dogwoods and azaleas. We haven't gotten to that point yet with our blooming, Tammy. I have some banana trees in the backyard that are about a foot, little over a foot tall, so that's impressive. However, we're supposed to have some really cold weather on Friday and Saturday, which is just crazy. So, I don't know. You know, you get used to the nice weather and then you don't want it to be chilly. At least I don't anyway. Hi Bridget and Karen, thank you guys for stopping in. So anyway, what we're going to do today is we're going to make a card. And the other thing I did was I put another layer back here, but this is removable. I kind of just was playing around with the different green inks. So the stamps that we're going to use today, and we probably could do this with multiple things, so I'm going to try to at least do two, is Mountain Air. And then this set also has, my stamps fell all over the place, coordinating dies. So if you purchase them together, you can bundle and save 10%. Let's see if I can get them on here without them falling. So you have stamp sets, and then I just put my dies on the inside here. So that's what we're going to use today. So we're going to do one with some trees, and then maybe we'll also do one with the mountain range. You could do this two different ways. You could do it like with a scene built, or you could even do a double flap card. So we'll see. I'm going to try and do one of each. Hopefully we won't run out of time. But I haven't really done this, so this is kind of just like a practice card, and then we'll see what comes of it. So, you had some bad storms, Donna. I think I got your storms after you got them. So, it's very pretty today. It's sunny. It's supposed to be really warm, so we're going to take advantage of it. I think it's supposed to be 74. Good morning, Yvonne in Washington, Elizabeth in Ohio. Thank you guys for stopping in. So, if you are watching this on the replay on YouTube, you can join me live every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so just in case. And the reason that you'll know whether it is or isn't live is there's a little red box up there. So if you're missing that on either YouTube, it goes to the replay. Facebook, if you don't see the little red live, it says live, it means it's not live, and it's the replay. However, you can still watch it. So I'm going to, not a whole lot going on otherwise Stampin' wise with Stampin' Up. We're still waiting for the new catalog. If you're a demonstrator, you'll actually be able to access it. I believe it is the end of the month, maybe like the last week of April. I'm looking at a calendar from last year because I didn't get a new one this year. Sadly, I couldn't get a Disney one, so I'm just recycling. And that's kind of it. The retirement list should be coming out towards the end of the month as well. And right now you can sign up for Paper Pumpkin. I keep saying that. It says it's May. It really is only April. April I think it's the 8th. Let me see. Yes, April 8th. You even know what day it is. It is a beautiful sunny morning. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to flip you guys down and we're going to get started. And as I find out anything else, if there's anything else exciting, right now we're kind of just in that lull. Celebration kind of ended. We do have the new pre-order, and I did get the paper from the new Ornate Garden suite. That is a pre-order from the new catalog. So at this time, anyone can pre-order. So if you're itching to get your hands on something new, there are a few things that are probably on back order because it was very popular since it's new. But there's still lots of fun stuff. I did order the DSP because it reminded me, I think I told you guys, of my mom's sheets that she used to have. So I'll let you know when I see it. So anyway, good morning, France. I'm going to flip y'all around. And if you get a little motion sickness, just look away for a minute. I will tell you when we're in. Alrighty. Alright, all settled. Let me just put this stand away. My son was playing with this a few years ago and he broke one of the legs back the wrong direction. So I have to be very careful with it. Okay. So what I want to show you is how I kind of started with this. So you could do this many different ways. One other thing I should have told you about is the fact that I am doing a stamp club to go, but I'll do a thing about that later. I'll hop on another time and share that with you. So I am doing a stamp club to go since we can't meet in person anymore. So I can explain the details of that a little bit later. I'm still trying to get a few things finalized with how I'm going to lay it out. But anyway, I did this one on soft seafoam because I thought maybe it would be kind of different to have the green in the background on something green. You could absolutely do this on white. So what I did was, in order to do this card, is I have a half sheet of cardstock. So these two sheets together made a full sheet. So this is 4 1/4 by 11, and then you're going to score it at 5 1/2. So that's what I did for this one and did the partial die cutting for this. Now this particular die, which is the tree line, only has a top die, so it doesn't cut all the way through. So this one's actually rather simple because basically all it's doing is, when you line this up, it's just cutting the edge. You just want to make sure that you don't cut past the line here. But you can also do this with a full die cut. So I'll do that later with the mountain range, but I'm going to show you how to do this one for now. The other thing you could do is you could actually use two pieces together. So just to kind of show you what I'm talking about, you could do a piece, and then this part could be your inside to write on, or you could completely decorate the inside if you wanted to. And then you could have a flap and a flap. So we could decorate the front of this. That way the trees would be there. This would be our picture. And then you could open it up and have space to write something. You could also just cut this and layer this inside and build a scene on here. And then just have an open flap for a single. So lots of different ways you can do it. But I'm going to show you first just what you would do if you were doing this as a regular die cut. So let me grab my trimmer because I didn't score this one. So you're going to score this like you normally would at 5 1/2. So you have your score line here. Now to make this simpler for myself, what I ended up doing was I used my Stamparatus. Let me move this out of the way. Just to get a really good straight placement with my tree line. So I kind of line this up. I usually pick a spot and line it up. So I was going for this one, going for not having this at the very bottom. I kind of wanted it up a little bit so it looked like you were into the trees. So what I did was I lined it up at, so the 6-inch marker down here was at the bottom. And then I just lined my fold of my card up with this line here. So all I'm going to do is just grab a magnet just to hold it in place. And what I did was I lined this up with the stamp ahead of time. Okay, so essentially I'm going to show you how to stamp one of these, and then we can kind of move on from here. You could do it in a very light color if you wanted to, and have the light be the background color. So we'll do that first. We'll have a light one be the background color, and we'll cut that one out, and then we'll stamp another one in front of it. So we'll do this with, instead of doing soft sea foam, or I should say soft sea foam, yeah, that's it. That's a little bit light, so I'm going to go with Granny or Pear Pizzazz. So I'll show you how to do this. We're going to stamp 2, and then we'll cut 1 out. So it kind of gives you like that layered look of the trees in the background. So you could do this as well with the mountain range, and you could do it in different shades of blue. So I'm just going to stamp this. Now the only thing, if you're doing this type of a card, so it does have this little tiny gap here. So what I did was, I did end up stamping the edge here just to kind of give it a little bit of color. So what I did was I kind of just moved it up 1 square, which is 1/4 inch, and over a little bit. And then I just, oops, that was the wrong way. I'm fibbing. Hold on. It was over 1 and down 1, just to get that little spot kind of covered in. So there's a second shadow tree there. So that's one thing to do. Now what we're going to do, so we started with 6 inches for this. So we're going to go up about 1/2 inch. So it's 2 squares, because each square is 1/4 inch. And we're just going to kind of look and see what that would look like. That's not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to pick a slightly darker ink. So we will go with Old Olive. And then our darkest one we'll put in the front. So this is kind of just something you can do if you're practicing. Maybe you haven't done a lot of layering with colors, but you can kind of layer them together. Now, one other thing, because you'll see there's a little bit of a white gap, or not white, but a gap where the color is showing. So what I did was I just moved it down about, not even 1/4 inch. I kind of went halfway in between, and without re-inking, I just stamped again just to fill in a little bit of the color, so it's not quite as stark with that color showing through. So that was 1/2 inch. So now if we go up to 5, and we'll see what this does for lining. That should line up just perfectly. Now I'm going to pick a dark ink. So I'm going to go with Mossy Meadow. Just reline this up. So again, I moved from 6 inches we started, then we went to 5.5. Now we're going to go to 5. So I'm just lining this up. And I did see right over here this little cutoff. So we will kind of go back in and fill that in a little bit. So same thing again. So I inked that up. That time it was Mossy Meadow. So this will be the darkest color because it's going to be the closest. So then you have that. Now this kind of is a little bit close in color with the Mossy Meadow instead of me picking the shaded Spruce, which was a little bit brighter. So I'm actually going to go back and ink this one more time. So same thing again. I'm just going in the exact same spot with the Mossy Meadow. So now you can tell that it's definitely a gradient of color. If you can see the 3 things there. So I'm just going to try and just fill in just a little bit of the edge here. I'm going to slide down 1/2 inch. I don't really want to re-ink because I don't want it to be too dark. So I'm just kind of using what I have on there, and I'm really only pressing on this spot here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move down. I'm just trying to catch a different piece of the stamp that might still be inked. So it kind of filled in the trees there. Okay, so we have that gradient. So now what we're going to do, let me move this out of the way. And now I'm going to show you how to die cut it. So again, we just picked 3 shades of green. So Pear Pizzazz, Old Olive, Mossy Meadow. So now what you're going to do to get the die cutting is you're going to take your tree die and you're going to line it up. So if you line it up exactly how you think, it's going to be a little bit high. So you want to make sure that when you line this up for this particular die, that you almost block out any of the color below that you would see. So I'm going to hold that in place, and I'm just going to put 2 pieces of tape on it. So I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to line this up. because we don't want to cut past here because then we'll have a big cut in our card. So we really only want to cut just to the edge of the score line here, okay? So in order to do this, you're going to put, I tend to like to put it in so it's feeding in so you can see where you have your edge. So I'm putting my part that's cutting down. Now I know I usually tell you not to cut straight on for this, but you don't really want to put it in crooked and cut crooked. So this is the one exception if you're willing to do this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to line this up. And I'm not going to go, whoopsie, I was going to, let me fix that. I'm not going to go right to the edge. I'm going to go just a little bit off. I need to use a bigger piece here. Just a slight bit away. Because I don't want to cut right up to this point here, but I'm going to go very, very close to it. So this is where the score line is, right here, in case you can't see it. If I can show you. So the score line is right there. So I'm going to go just inside of it. So let me feed this in. Trying to do this without getting my head in your way. So I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the score line. So I'm going to just slide this in just like so, and I'm going to start cranking it. All right, and then pull this out. What you'll see is when you pull this off, okay, you're going to have, and mine probably could have gone a little bit farther, but it's okay. So you have this partial flap here. Now, if you would have done this with this die, this will cut the entire thing out. So we're going to have to do this a little different when we do this side, okay? So we could do this one as a bottom flap. Lots of different options for this. But now you have your flap portion. Now what you can do, you could do one of two things. You could either use a craft knife and you can cut it that way. You can line this up. I have my score line lined up right in the center here where I would cut. Now with the new blade, it is a little bit easier to tell exactly where you are. So you could certainly cut it like this. You could get a craft knife and cut it down. You could even do scissors if you're a little bit nervous about it. But I'm going to go right where I think it stops. And then I'm going to lift up and see. Just a little bit more. And I'm going to have to do just a tiny bit of trimming in here because of the way I lined up the die. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my snips. And I'm just going to cut right, very small cut right there. Okay, so there you have this, and then you're going to just fold your flap. So then you'll have your open flap. Now, one thing, it does have this little ridge here from where we cut, but if you use your bone folder, you can smooth it down. And I think I just need to replace my blade because it's giving me a ridge on almost everything. But there you have your open flap cut. Okay, so we can do this again. I'm going to show you the first way. I'm going to grab my bigger trimmer. The first way we can do this is by stamping a scene. And I'm going to trim this down a little bit. So normally this inside would be 5.5 if when we want it edge to edge. I'm going to take it just a 1/8 of an inch down. So I'm going to keep it really, really tight. That way it kind of fits the scene. So normally this will be 4 1/4. So I'm going to do 4 1/8 because I want to try to keep it so it's pretty well fit in here. So this would be the simple version. And you could probably be like, simple? That doesn't seem that simple. But it is fairly simple considering. So when we layer that in, now what we're going to do is we're going to stamp the rest of our background in here with the rest of the stamps in this set. And then we'll put it together. So for this one, I'm going to put this on the side. We're just going to stamp this for now. And I do want to use only for my sake. You don't have to do this at all, but I'm going to do it just to make it easier. I'm going to use my Stamparatus. So I'm going to leave this guy on. Let me just wipe him off. In case we do another one with the exact same thing. So I'm going to leave him on here. Now I could just flip this over if I wanted to and use the other side of it here. But since I have another one, I'm just going to pull that out instead. Because it does come with 2 plates. That way we can kind of have our two different scenes set up. So for this one, I'm going to just set him up here. And we're going to kind of have to decide what it is we want to do with this. So we could have our mountains here. Might as well, if we're going to, we could add a cloud to it. This also comes with a die, so you could stamp the clouds. We could do the clouds just with a blending brush. We do have, now I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty certain this is the moon. So we could do the moon. So let's do that because it kind of to me seems a little bit more like an evening card. So we'll do the moon. And we'll do him if we're looking kind of at our picture over here to the side. And what I'm going to do, now one other thing, in case you have issues with stamping, back here in the corner, you can always add your silicone mat if you don't get a nice crease up top or maybe like a little shim of cardboard that comes with something that you're using. You don't have to, but you could. I'm going to use a little bit of Seaside Spray for my moon. Just a teeny bit. Because Seaside Spray is pretty light. And I'm going to use a little bit of, I'm actually going to use my marker, Gray Granite, just to kind of bring in a little color. All right, let's see what that looks like. I've not done, you could also do your moon as a white, but it'd be kind of hard to see a white one here. So that actually turned out pretty well, really without any extra, because the only thing under here is my regular mat. So that turned out pretty well. Now I'm going to do, oops, there's my hair. I'm going to do a little bit of a sky back here before we move on to anything else. So let me clean this off real quick. Put him back. We'll fill in a little bit of the sky. And I'm going to do this. You know, I almost ordered some of these new ones because I can't get to the dollar store on Amazon, the ones that I wanted, but I think they sold out. So I am going to continue with Seaside Spray. I'm going to do a little bit of Seaside Spray. Let's see, is this the, I think this is more the blue one. And when you use these blending brushes, even though this is dye-based ink for us, so it's not a pigment ink, it doesn't blend as easily. If you start off, it still does give you kind of like a nice soft look of color. And I'm going to add in another color as well. I'm kind of trying to leave a little bit of a gap, kind of for like a natural, maybe cloud moon look, if that makes sense. So a little bit of Seaside Spray. It's not probably even enough that you can see this on the camera. Then I'll do a little bit of Balmy Blue. Since I'm going to a darker color, that's why I haven't changed blenders. Just a little bit. And I'm kind of trying to avoid the moon to get that sort of halo feel around it. So we'll see. And then I still want to do a little bit of dark. Now I would like to do Pretty Peacock, but I feel like that's going to be a little too green. So I'm just going to add just a teeny bit of navy. And I mean teeny when I say teeny. So I'm kind of brushing off first. Hopefully this wasn't a mistake by adding this navy. Okay, so I'm being super light-handed. Like I have, instead of one pinky, I'm holding on just barely with this. Let me wipe this off. Okay, so now we're going to go back to, at this point, we're going to do what we would add in for our mountain. So we have that. So for our mountain, let's see, there's something on this. What is that? It's sticky. So for our mountain, I'm going to add a main mountain. And I guess this is kind of dark now that I think about it with the trees, but this is one of those, you have to use your imagination for this card to be real. But I guess that's part of the fun of making cards, right? They can be whatever you want them to be. Okay, so I'm going to go with a lighter blue for the first one. Let's see. I'm going to do Balmy. So I'm going to ink this in Balmy Blue. And just going to put this down and press. get my top portion. Probably because my magnet's up there. Yeah, let me move this. All right, there's one. Now I want to have more than one layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this over about 1/4 inch. Kind of restamping. Now I'm going to shift this over this way, back to where it was, 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go down just a smidge. So we kind of have our different layering of mountains. So when I did this, I'm going to just tell you this right now, I was not thinking ahead of time. It would have been smarter if I would have put this on this side, because now I can't really step down with the mountains because I'm at the top. So I probably should have started down or put this in this way with the mountain facing the other direction. So if you're doing this after the fact and watching it, you would probably want to have your mountain lined up from this way. That way you can move it up and down. So that was something that I just goofed up. So we're going to have to clean this off to be able to move this down one. So if you're happen to not start doing a project yet, I know we're doing this live, so I'm assuming none of you went and ran and got your supplies that fast. So I'm going to slip this over to the other side. And I'm going to press it on here just to make sure there's no ink. And then I'm going to move over, and I'm going to start this one kind of over because this is going to be darker. That way we can still go to this side with it. That looks pretty good. There's a piece of fuzz there again. And now I'm going to do this darker. So this one I'm going to go with Night of Navy. That's our darkest dark blue. Now, one other thing you could do, and I'm going to slide this over just a little bit. And let's see. I'm going to just kind of re-ink just this one area. There you go. So you could take your blender pen, and I believe I did navy with this last, and kind of blend a little bit of this color while it's still slightly wet. Might have to still bring in a little bit just to kind of give this a little bit more of a filled in look. And then what we can do for the base of this is I'm going to do this in navy, and I'm going to kind of fade the rest of it out. And I might even add a little bit of black at the bottom. Now, when you're doing the bottom here, because we're not trying to really make it super smooth looking, we really just want to go with more of a dark. Kind of almost could look like a fog, really. You could do this with a sponge instead, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm going to go up here just a little bit. And just for the sake of color, I'm going to add in just a little bit of Pretty Peacock, so it's like a greenish, bluish. Just to add a little bit of kind of visual interest to this. Give it a little bit of depth with more than one color. Not really going up into the top mountains quite so much. You could once you get your brush kind of cleaned off, but so, oops, is it a little smudge? There we go. So that's kind of what we're going to go with for that. Now, one other thing you could do if you feel like the way this edge is, it's too lost, you could always go in, most likely, and I've not done this before, so let's just see what it looks like. I'll make the mistakes, or test out, should I say, so you don't have to. But you can kind of give this like a little bit of a grounding ground. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking the brush tip of my marker and kind of just tapping in, just to give a little bit of a ground layer to the mountains, if that makes sense. I'm not really doing it on the entire thing. I'm kind of just selectively editing where I'm putting it, I guess is a good way to say it. So I don't want to just like put a straight line all the way across. And then I'm going to take And just blend just a little bit to soften it. You could also do this while it's wet. You could have used your blender pen. So that way it just gives a little bit of a ground feel, I guess you would say. So one other thing that will look really cool with this too, just to add to it, is you could spray it with shimmer paint, but I'm not going to do that, but I am going to do the moon. So I have my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to just go over the moon. Now you do need to be careful with your Wink of Stella because this is kind of like a really sparkly blender pen. And it will reactivate the ink colors, so you could blend. So you kind of want to be careful. Don't squeeze it right when you do it. But basically, I just added a whole lot of shimmer. I think you can see that right there to the moon. So there's that. So let me move a couple of these things out of the way. Move these blues over. And then we will just put this together. Now, this is one where, obviously, oops, let me wipe the back of this off. This is gonna get all over the green. We don't really have a specific writing space for this because of the way we set it up, okay? So you could put a panel on the back and write a message. You could trim out a small piece here and put a message. And these are kind of the kind of cards where sometimes I almost don't really like putting a sentiment on it because I feel like it kind of takes away from it a little bit. One other thing you could do here is we could have added, and this is a good idea. Let me just look at this real quick. Just to bring it in, I'm wondering if it'll be cool enough. We're going to add just a tree line, but instead I'm going to kind of keep with the color with the blue. I'm going to add this back in, and we could add the trees kind of right there. We'll maybe give a little grounding underneath of our space. I'm going to do it just for the heck of it. Let's see. So I'm going to line this up with this line. Let me move over just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to do this the same thing. You could also do this if you wanted for something different. You could do black because it would be really, really dark for that portion. But I don't want to do black just because the way we did the trees in the front, it might be almost at this point, even with the blues and the greens, a little bit of, again, like I said, kind of a false reality picture because we have the light and the dark. But we'll go with it. So that's navy. And I'm going to bring that up for the trees. Might actually finish. It kind of looks like you have a lake in there. So that kind of, I think this probably worked out even better than I expected it to. All right, let me close this up. All right, so that was fairly, I think, for the most part, I don't know, some of you may or may not agree with me, but I think this is fairly simple. But I really think the trees with what we did there kind of almost gives it like a lake look. So I'm going to put this on here. And this is going to be, we'll say, our simpler version of the card. And then I want to do one more where we do a double layer. So we're going to have 2 flaps. That way, if you're maybe looking for something a little bit more, and I am lining this up as carefully as I can, remember, because we didn't have a really big border because we wanted to kind of be able to keep it so it fit to the scene really well. So there's what it looks like. So you have your trees in the front, your flap, and then your rest of your scene here. So I think it's a really pretty card. This would even be a nice card if you just wanted to layer this, doing this front, plain as it is, layer it maybe with white and then onto black would be really nice, or even navy. So that's a pretty simple cut card with the partial die cutting. So now what we're going to do, the other one, what I was saying is too, and I stamped this many different colors earlier, is you could even layer this in the back if you wanted to kind of have more of a high tree line and then open the inside up differently. But what we're going to do for the next one is I'm going to do the next one in, kind of wondering if I should do white or vanilla. I think I'm going to do white, just for the heck of it, and we're going to see what it looks like. So we're going to do this one opposite. This one is going to be completely different, hopefully, from the first one. So let me grab some, I'm going to do Thick Whisper White. So I'm just going to use one entire piece for this card. Now, when we layer these together, we are going to need to trim just a little bit off of one to get them to go together the way we want. So I'm going to go ahead and score this again. And where do we do this here? Be this way. So I'm going to score this at 5.5. Don't ask why I couldn't figure that one out. We're going to score this at 5.5. And then I'm going to cut it at 4.25. So we'll have 2 pieces. Okay, so this will be one layer, this will be the other. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and trim just a teeny bit off of each side. I'm talking maybe like a 1/16 of an inch. Just that way it layers in there a little bit better. Okay, because what we want is this one, which is the actual full size. This is going to be our outer layer, and then this one is going to fit inside, and you do need to take just a teeny bit off so it will layer in there seamlessly. So this is going to be a double flap card. So for the front of this one instead, we're going to use the mountains. So we're going to need to be a little bit more careful, and I'm just right now saying a little prayer that I hope this turns out just the way I have planned in my mind, because you know things don't always work out that way. I'm going to go ahead and stamp it first with my Stamparatus. That way I have the mountain where I want it, and then we'll go back and do the die cutting. And then we can add in the trees for the other one. So let's kind of see where we're going to go, lining this up. Let me wipe this off so we don't have any accidents. Okay. Actually, no, I don't want to put it this way so I still have my lines. Now, for our mountain, yep, we're going to have to move this. For our mountain, what we're going to do, I'm just going to put this on a spot where I like. Remember, our die is a full die, okay? So we only want to cut the top portion. We don't want to cut the bottom, or else it's just going to cut the entire mountain out. So if we're layering like this, and say we want to have our mountain partially through, so for this one, we probably went about 1/3, which I think is pretty good, because that way you have some room for the stuff over top of it. But I'm actually going to move this one down just a little bit more. So I'm going to take this and slide it down just a little bit farther. And I'm going to move it over just a smidge. So this one will have a little bit bigger of a connection here. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp it first. So I have this just thing lining up at 14. And how about if we do this one instead in grays? We'll just do it a little bit different. So I'm going to stamp the mountain in basic gray. All right. So there's our mountain. Now I don't want to do too much filling in of the rest of the thing until I get this die cut. That way I assure myself that I don't screw it up. Let me slide this over. I'm going to bring my big shot back in. So this is the point where you do have to be careful, because look, I already smudged it. Oh well. Because you want to get your... you know what we should have done this one? We should have done this one from the bottom. It probably would have been much simpler. Because now that I think about it, I'm going to have to do... well, I might just have to do... nope, that's not going to work because it's too big. Yep, this is going to have to be from the bottom, I think, because of the size of this. Hold on, I'm thinking this out. This is why I did one ahead of time, because I wanted to make sure I didn't go in and ruin it. Because at this point, if we want to die cut just the top part, it's going to be a little bit hard, which we could have a free flap. But, all right, I'm going to go back. Hold on a second. Bear with me, because at this point, this is how... you don't want to ruin something. So I'm going to score this one. I'm going to go back again. So my apologies. I'm going to do this at 4.25. And then this one's going to be top and bottom instead. So we're going to cut this at 5.5. All right. I'm not going to worry about trimming this one down yet. I'm going to do this first to make sure that I have it where I want it. So, if we're going to imagine, okay, so go back like that didn't happen. We're going to imagine the card is going to go like this. So our mountain is going to be down here and it's going to fold in. So I'm going to change where I had this. It doesn't really matter where I necessarily put this. I'm just going to line it up with an edge. Okay. Clean this off. That's what happens when you're doing a live video. Okay, so this one's going to fold in. I don't want it still to come up too much, so I'm going to go this way. So about a third of the mountain. I'm going to try to keep it centered because we're only going to cut the top. So we're going to pick this up again. All right, make sure I have this lined up again. So I'm lining it up here with the 3 centimeters, only because I flipped my paper over, so disregard that. It's funny when I do these videos and I start something and I'm like, well, that's not going to work. That kind of makes me think about if someone films videos and they don't do live videos, they just do them as recorded videos and they don't ever do live videos. They probably do a lot of, well, that's not going to work. And you also have the free reign to be able to say like something inappropriate because it didn't work. But I always try to think of it this way, that at least we are learning and I am wasting the paper. Again, my new motto, so you don't have to. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this in this way instead. So again, we just want to cut the top. So actually it would be better if we do it this way. So we're going to lay our die on top to match up with the mountains. Kind of trying to get down as close as I can. I don't want to cut anything off, but I want it to be as close as possible to butting up. So I'm going to put some tape on the top and on the bottom. Okay, so let us do this. So I'm going to slide my die in, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of going to right where these 2 little corners are, I'm going to cut there. And that's going to be my end. So I'm just lining it up, pushing it up that my crank kind of starts to turn, and then I'm going to crank it. Okay. So this worked much better for what I wanted to do. We still have to do just a little bit of trimming. Okay, so right now you have these little flaps here. So these you can actually just pop off with a little paper snip. Okay, so pretty easy. So we'll have that. Now where this is going to line up, it is a little bit high. Excuse me. So we might not have the beautiful effect like I was going for with the 2 flaps going together, because it would kind of be hard to get something to fit in here like this with the trees, but it can be done. So we're going to do something. I don't know exactly what, but we're going to do something. So I'm going to trim a little bit off of this. This will be the one side, the side that's going to go in. This side won't matter because we're going to cut it. So if we were going to do this, I guess the best thing to think is we can't really necessarily die cut the trees, because the trees are going to disappear from underneath if we were to die cut them. So we can layer the trees on the inside, but we couldn't use them to cut. So we're going to have to think outside the box. We could do trees, but same thing again, because the bottom of the trees isn't what we want since it's coming in that direction. It's not really going to work. We could do this. So we were die cutting the trees. We could take the bottom, and then we would have the tops of the trees still connected and the bottoms hanging. We could do it that way, which that kind of would work. So maybe we'll do that just to see what it looks like. So we have this. We would have our trees, but they would kind of be coming behind it. But it would work. so we'll do this one. So this one's going to be an unusual card that you may or may not ever want to duplicate making. And believe me, I would not take that personally. I totally understand. Sometimes you might think whatever I'm doing is just a little too much for you. So I'm going to do this the opposite way this time. I'm actually going to die cut first. And then I'm going to stamp because I don't exactly know where I want to line them up. So I'm going to do my best. And we're going to just kind of have to go with a line of where we want the trees. And you could do this more than once. You could do 2 trees and then another single tree here and another tree over here, which we could do. So we'd have a couple different trees. But for now, I'm going to just do one. I'm going to try to make sure that these are kind of lined up, that the stumps are in the same vicinity. But otherwise than that, I really won't say that they're necessarily exactly straight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to decide what part we want to cut. So maybe half of the tree is probably good. So just to be on the safe side, looks like it's about 1/4. I'm going to draw a super, super, super faint line right in the center here. And I'm going to line my plate up. That way it cuts, and I'm going to go just above it. That way I have it covered. So let's see what this looks like. Okay. So this time, again, we're feeding the cut side in. So if we put this down where we want it, and we slide this in. Oops. Line that up. I'm trying to go just above that pencil mark. And again, trying to make sure it's nice and straight. And if this whole tree thing is too much for you, you can also do this with shapes. So we're going to have to cut this here, but we did get these cuts here where the trees were, okay? So you could do this with a circle and layer it over, so you would have a partial circle cut or a partial square. So there are lots of different things you can do. Let me pull this off. Okay, now before I do this, before I do the trimming, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fill in my trees to make sure that I don't want any more. And it kind of will give me a little bit better of a visual when I'm going to cut them. So let's see what's going to work better here. I'm not really lining the rest of this up to anything. I'm kind of just making sure it holds in place while I'm fitting these trees in here. Okay. So there's the trees. Let me make sure they look centered. Okay. And I'm actually going to grab, where did my other magnet get to? Lord only knows. Only because I wanted to hold it in place a little bit better with 2, but, well, we can't find it, so we'll move on. I'm going to do shaded spruce for these. Okay. Actually, they turned out pretty good considering. So if we wanted to, now at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to trim here straight across. We could add in another tree if we wanted to. We could add some more trees in the background, but I'm going to just use this right now to cut and close this up. That way we can see more so where we're going. So again, you could use a straight edge for this. For this little piece here, you could even use your scissors if you want. But I'm going to go straight across. So right, that's almost to the tree. I don't want to go too much into it because I could always do it with my scissors. Lift up and move over just to the edge of this one. That's pretty good. I didn't get quite as far on this one. That's good. And then back here to the end. Okay, so this should come off with not too much effort. So I might still have to bring my snips in just to get these little teeny bits. Here's one. Oh, I cut this tree here, so I might have to back this one behind here. I did cut into this one when I was cutting. I probably would have been better off with my scissors on that little one. Okay, so then we have this piece that would now fit in, because we did trim the other one off. Would now fit in, and we could have kind of like a double flap card. I'm just wondering if maybe I should. The way these are lined up are definitely not in my best. The way I wanted this, let's say that way, and the way I wanted it and the way it turned out are not, they're not great. But what we can do is we can still save this. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to do this instead. Instead of this being a full big flap, what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to make a score line, and we're going to put it in as a smaller flap. That way we can still kind of save what we have here. So let's see if we can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this here at the halfway mark where I would have. And, oh man, I need a new blade on that. Let me get this out just to trim this up so it's a little bit nicer. Yeah. And then I'm going to score this with a little 1/2 inch. About a 1/2 inch. That's all we really need. And then what we can do is can make this right on here. And this one's a little bit high still, so I'm going to take off a little bit more. I'm going to go to, it's a 1/2 inch. Try 1 inch. Almost. Would almost be nice enough, but you still have the tree line there. So this might not be the easiest one to do. It might be easier to do this with something that you're just doing one of, because the way we're lining these up isn't exactly working together, but you could make it work if you wanted to. So this one probably, I would say, is definitely not going to be the easiest one to do just because of these two types of layers, but you know, you win some, you lose some. I think this is, unfortunately for me, at the point where I'm like thinking to myself that this probably wouldn't be the most beautiful card that you'd want to do. What you could do instead with this, and I'll do this real quick, just for the heck of it, is we could do 1 and 2. Let me grab one more thing, because I feel like no matter what, I want to try to save this and make it into something. Oh, good morning, Luli. Boy, did you come in at the time that's... I don't even know, what do we want to call it? Guys, this is probably one of my less wonderful cards, if that's a good way to put it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, for this, I'm trying to think if we're going this way with these trees, because we're going to have down here and here. All right, so I'm going to cut this at 5 1/2. I'm going to try something before I totally give up on this. That's about how it is at this point. Okay, let's try this. Maybe we can try something from the bottom. You never know. We might be able to make some slight lemonade out of what I'm definitely going to say is a lemon at this point. So I'm going to do the opposite here. Right like that. Oops, because it's not easy to go in that direction. Hold on. Well, at least we did get one slightly nice card out of this, right? I am going to go back and forth with this because this is a kind of detailed tree. Let's see if it looks like it went through. Yeah. But this didn't do what I was wanting it to do either. Oh, Lord. At this point, I should just say, the heck with it. This isn't working out the way I wanted it to. All the things the crafters don't normally say. Look, I'm going to peel this out. Actually, the funny part is the way this cut, the top part cut much better, and it's a lot looser than this, which is what I was trying to go for, but whoa, didn't go for. Was trying to go for, if you see this here, like a partial. Oy. All right, well, look, at least we got one semi-nice card out. The card that I thought was going to be more complicated ended up being a wah-wah. So what I'm going to do for the end of this is I'm going to flip you back to the way you were in the front. So for all those who may get nauseated, because sometimes you don't do the things that you think you're going to do, and you know what? That's okay. But you still have to. Hold on, I'm trying to set this up. All right, I'm going to flip you back one more time here. So look away for a moment. What you gonna do? So we did at least get one card. I'm gonna show you my face. I'm a little hot because what I was trying to do didn't work out, but we got one. This one was still another way to use your dies, partial die cutting. It's much harder to do the mountain. Probably would have been easier if the mountain was way lower down on our card base. So let's say if it was like this and maybe you only had a 1/4 inch, but you know, you win some, you lose some. So what are you going to do? I am going to tell you one other thing. I am going to draw and post the winner for the lovely Ladybug bundle, because I'm picking that from last week's live. If you haven't already, make sure you leave a comment, because I will draw some winners for you all having to put up with the agony of watching me try to make a second card, which didn't really turn out very well, but at least the first card turned out. So you have pieces for future cards. See, Donna, that's just the perfect way to look at it. Exactly. You know, there's times when I specifically, happens to me, and this used to happen when I did my real job too. Every once in a while you'll have a day where you just, it's like things didn't work out. And I think it just reminds you that everybody makes mistakes. You're all human. And just remember that no matter what, just try again. So that's, normally I don't get back on here face to face at the end, but I felt like I should at least owe it to you to say that I wasn't crying, which is always a nice positive step. But I am going to draw some winners. Now, I won't draw them until this Friday, because I will do it again live on Friday. So today is Wednesday. So you have today, you can leave comments, you can say, poor Rachel, I feel for you, or way to go, you didn't cry, and turn off the video camera, because sometimes that's just what I want to do. But I will draw some winners, and I will post the winner of the Ladybug bundle. Now, if you do win the Ladybug bundle, because I know I have some people that are from out of the country that watch, I can only ship it to someone who is in the United States, because it's just way too expensive to ship otherwise. And you do need to send me your mailing address. So if you know the person that is the winner, make sure you tag them. And if not, I will redraw again in a week. So if no one claims it by then, we'll redraw. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope where you are it's sunny, and that you're safe and healthy, and you have enough toilet paper and bread and chocolate and wine and maybe some sort of other beverage if that's not your beverage of choice. But I will see you guys again Friday for the winners when I draw for this. So make sure, if you haven't already, give you just another second, leave a comment. I did make some cards for my card class to go. I did mention that earlier. So I will post that, and I do have a PDF, and with the PDF I actually have a video for each card. So that's why I'm going to do the PDF that you can buy, but the PDF also includes videos, which is pretty fun. I designed them all around one stamp set this time, which has absolutely no images, which I will tell you was definitely a challenge. So that was fun, but the cards are really, really pretty, and they're all different. There's one fun fold card, and there's one card that uses a different technique. It's a lot of fun. There's lots of stuff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, for sticking in there through the good cards and the duds. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.